In March 1314, a 70-year-old man was brought to a stake for his execution, and he was prepared to be burned alive at it. He was not just a normal elderly man, he was the final Grandmaster of the military order known as the Knights Templar. Jacques de Molay was the 23rd Grandmaster, and he served until the dissolution of the Templars, and he oversaw their downfall at the hands of the French king, who unleashed a number of brutal and shocking claims against the military order that shamed them. But the Knights Templar, throughout the medieval period, were the men who protected the Holy Lands, and they were men who fought in crusades and aimed to protect pilgrimage routes for Christians. But the Templars became one of the first multinational corporations, and they were very, very rich, and they were given huge grants of land. But what is the story of the horrific execution of the last Templar Grandmaster? As always, to support our channel, please make sure to subscribe. Jacques de Molay, it's believed, was born in the county of Burgundy around 1240, and this land was ruled by the Holy Roman Empire at the time. He was born into a middle-class family, and at the age of 21 he was made a knight, and then this led him into a career inside of the Order of the Templars. He was received into the order in a chapel, and was accepted by a prominent member of the organisation. The Templars were a military order of the Catholic faith, and as mentioned they were one of the wealthiest and most well-known groups. They were founded in 1119 and had their headquarters on Temple Mount in Jerusalem. They were around for about 2 centuries, and they were endorsed and supported in their actions by the Catholic Church. They grew in their membership and power, and they were originally founded to protect Christian pilgrims in the Holy Land. At the time, pilgrims and visitors to the Holy Lands were under attack, and there were a number of murders, and the Templars were then established to provide protection. In 1099, Jerusalem was captured during the First Crusade from the Fatimid Caliphate, and the Crusaders were in control of the Holy Land. But to establish power in the region, a religious order as in the Templars was created. They would then protect Christian pilgrims in the Holy Region. Grandmasters of the group include the first influential one, Hugh de Pan, and he appealed to many governments and people to provide support for the Knights Templar. He travelled to England to drum up support, and managed to secure financial support with the first Templar house being set up in London, with the patrons being King Stephen and Queen Matilda. Templars were then left huge grants of land, and they became very wealthy. King Henry II took a huge interest in the group, and he paid for 200 Templar knights in the Holy Land. They were granted special privileges by the Pope Innocent II in 1139. They were ordered not to pay church tithes or taxes, and further crusades then occurred. Templars took divine vows of poverty, chastity and obedience, like monks, and they were expected to honour fasts and other important vigils throughout the year. They were frequently found in prayer, and they venerated the Virgin Mary in particular. They were not allowed to swear, gamble or get drunk, and were to live in communities, eating meals together and sleeping in the same dormitories. Templars, following gaining a huge amount of wealth, then managed to expand their duties from protectors of pilgrims to builders of castles, and they garrisoned towns in the Holy Land. They also took part in many battles against Muslim armies. However, in 1291, after a century of dominance and popularity across the globe, it all came crushing down. The fall of Acre occurred in 1291, and this was the last Crusader stronghold following the establishment of the Crusader states decades before. But following the fall of Acre to the Egyptian Mamluks, the Franks were able to retreat to the island of Cyprus, which was a small base for future Templar activities, along with other Crusader activities launched against those forces that took Acre. Jacques de Molay was based in Cyprus at the time, and during a meeting with the 22nd Grandmaster, Molay suggested reforming the Templars, and he then succeeded as the Grandmaster himself, but he would be the final one. He then toured the West to gain further support for Templar activities in the Holy Land, and he met with the English king, Edward I, along with the kings of Aragon and Naples. His intention was to strengthen Cyprus's defences and build up numbers of the Templars, but there were debates to merge the group with another order, the Knights Hospitaller. But Jacques de Molay then began to further plan attacks to try and regain the Holy Land, and in 1300 he conducted a number of raids from Cyprus along the Egyptian and Syrian coast. The force was commanded by Henry II of Jerusalem, and and they were very successful in their raids. But the Templars faced further loss of lands. But in 1305 the new Pope, Clement V, asked the leaders about a new crusade, and Molay wrote regarding this. He also opposed merging with the Hospitallers, but they were then asked to meet again regarding this matter. However, further horror would come for the Templars, and also for the final Grand Master. King Philip IV of France was in a huge amount of debt to the Knights Templar, and he wanted to merge the two orders and place them under his command. Philip was arguing with the Pope at the time, and there had been attempts to excommunicate him from the church, and Philip even tried to abduct a previous Pope, and then charge the Pope with heresy. This led to the former Pope dying of shock. Jacques de Molay travelled to meet regarding this issue, but the Grand Master of the Hospitallers was delayed in his travel to France. Molay met with the Pope to discuss a number of issues, including a number of rumours and charges that had been levelled at the group by those who had been thrown out of the Templars. This included accusations about the initiation ceremony, and the Grand Master had also spoken to the French king about this. However, the Templars then came crushing down. There were a number of charges levelled against the group by the French king. This included spitting on the cross during initiation and many other shocking acts. They were also accused of worshipping a human head as an idol, and that the priest of the order did not worship in the Catholic way. But Philip, the French king, wanted the Templars arrested and their possessions and lands confiscating and bringing into the royal treasury and his coffers. He took advantage of these Templar charges to bring the group down, and he ordered the arrest of all Templar agents in France. Jacques de Molay was at the time in October 1307 in Paris, and he was arrested at the Templars' central house in the French capital. King Philip then had the Templars charged with heresy and many other crimes, and Jacques de Molay, it was said, confessed under torture to denying Christ and trampling on the cross, and he was then forced to write a letter to every Templar to admit to these charges and crimes. But the Pope then ordered the arrest of all the Templars in Christendom. But the reality of these charges was that they were confessed to by Molay under torture, and other Templars were subjected to horrific torture, and they admitted anything. Jacques de Molay, as the Grand Master, faced a huge amount of questioning, and he retracted his confessions, and he then returned to what he was forced to admit. But the executions of the Templars were then carried out, and dozens were burned at the stake between the 10th of May and the 12th of May 1310 inside of France. The Knights Templar were formally abolished by papal decree on the 22nd of March 1312 at the Council of Vienne, but Jacques de Molay was sentenced to death in 1314 following the decision of cardinals. He was to be sentenced to be burned at the stake, and he was taken to the Ile de Javaux on the River Seine for his execution around the 18th of March 1314. An account of his execution claimed that the cardinals dallied with their duty until 18th of March 1314, when on a scaffold in front of Notre Dame, Jacques de Molay, Templar Grandmaster, Geoffrey de Charnay, Master of Normandy, Hugh de Péraud, Visitor of France, and Godefroy de Gonneville, Master of Aquitaine, were brought forth from the jail in which for nearly 7 years they had lain, to receive their sentence agreed upon by the cardinals, in conjunction with the Archbishop of Sens, and some other prelates whom they had been called in. Considering the offences which the culprits had confessed and confirmed, the penance was in accordance with rule, that of perpetual imprisonment. The affair was supposed to be concluded when, to the dismay of the prelates and wonderment of the assembled crowd, Jacques de Molay and Geoffrey de Charnay arose. They had been guilty, they said, not of the crimes imputed to them, but of basely betraying their order to save their own lives. It was pure and holy, the charges were fictitious, and the confessions false. Hastily the cardinals delivered them to the Prelate of Paris, and retired to deliberate on this unexpected contingency, but they were saved all trouble. When the news was carried to Philip, he was furious. A short consultation with his council only was required. The canons pronounced that a relapsed heretic was to be burned without a hearing. The facts were notorious, and no formal judgment by the papal commission needed to be waited for. That same day by sunset, a pyre was erected on a small island in the Seine, the Ile de Joux, near to the palace garden. There de Molay, de Charnay, de Gonneville, and de Péraud were slowly burned to death, refusing all offers of a pardon for retraction, and bearing their torment with a composure which won for them the reputation of martyrs amongst the people, who reverently collected their ashes as relics. Jacques de Molay was on the riverbank burned at the stake for heresy. His execution was not quick, and it was a slow fire that led to him suffering for hours, until he finally succumbed to his execution and death. It was said that de Molay showed no signs of fear, and that during his slow death at the stake he criticised the Pope and the King, and that he said his death would be avenged, and that many would join him in the afterlife, including the Pope and the French King. Some had attributed this as the Grandmaster cursing them, but within a year both the Pope and the French King were dead. But in history, Jacques de Molay is remembered as the last Templar Grandmaster, and he was also remembered for being the man who oversaw the group as they were disbanded and broke up with ruthless brutality at the hands of a French king, who ordered so much execution to try and seize the wealth of the group. Thanks for watching. To support our channel, please make sure to subscribe, and once again, thank you so much for watching.